challenges. Nigerians still feel shortchanged, by these companies, and there's still the talk of energy theft. How do you strike a balance in this situation?
Well, until we stand up strongly on a strong regulatory framework, we'll continue to go front and back. There seems to be a regulatory capture in the country where some people or some discos seem to be having an edge, over the regulatory, that is NEC. Or whatever they do, nobody, takes care of them. Energy theft is something that is common, all over the world. But the capacity to come up with new equipment to detect such theft is very, very important. And then I think this goes where this problem lies more, have to sit up to make sure that they take care of this energy theft, And in fact, even the issue of energy loss, transition as a result of force, those technical and non-technical force are very, very critical to measure the percentage, at what percentage is NEC regulating them, at what percentage of energy loss as a result of vandalism, as a result of deliberate effort and collusion by some agents within and outside this power sector. These are very, very essential, and until we address it, we will continue to lament.
Yeah, comrade, you also called for the resignation of the honorable minister and some other officials. Is that not like overreacting to this whole situation?
There is nothing like overreacting. If we don't, the issue of resigning is a conditional clause. If you can't do this job, resign. And that is what happens in any client. It's not a question of calling for. How can you be talking of 8 billion to educate Nigerians when there is constant grid collapse? And nobody has heard anywhere that the culprits have been caught. And the Home Minister comes to national TV to tell us that the grid collapse will continue. Then where lies the job of such a ministry? Where lies the job of the Regulatory Commission? And you say one is calling for a resignation. If you know you can't do this job, you resign. That's a clear sentence. It has nothing to do with overboard. You give chance for other people to do it. There's grid collapse today, there's grid collapse tomorrow. Nothing has been done to forestall it. And there's even the issue of vandalism, to the extent of cutting wires. These wires that are being cut, who gave them outage? Is it that the lines were idle before they were cut, or they were on? Is there no monitoring device, in those days to detect when any line is being tampered? These are some of the jobs, and I repeat it, of the ministry that they should play. And I'm saying that any official of the ministry that is not ready to do this job because of the sensitivity of the sector, and it's important, to the economy of the country.
Let's talk about the 50% increase in tariff for telecom services. Nigerians are still dealing with a lot of the harsh impact of some reforms of the current government, and they are not quite satisfied. It's a major concern having to deal with another increase. What is your strategy in calling for a nationwide boycott of telecom services?
Well, I think if you check, the workers seem to be the person at the receiving end. And that informed our comments on the new tax regime. Because the tax regime tried to look at the issue of those on exemption to be either those receiving less than 1 million. And if you cut it from that 1 per annum, that 1 million bracket, you discover that almost all the workers are involved. And by the time you now look at it from the point of, tariff, and then even in doing their jobs, apart from transportation to offices and the result of the problem of PMS costs and other issues, you discover that it is extremely difficult for the worker to cope or to communicate with his boss, with his colleagues, and to do some of his jobs. So I think this is a rate that is too high for us to bear. And like I said, the issue of boycott is another industrial relations policy. You know, you can adopt go slow, you can adopt absolute boycott, but these are measures for you to establish your disenchantment with the policy. And I think the telecom countries should not behave as if they are living in the air or in the moon. They live in this country and they know what people are passing through. We are still consulting at all levels of the labor unions and the workers, and we come up with the most appropriate way to go.
Now, because Nigerians are listening to you, what alternatives you are against the 50% tariff hike? How low would you be ready to go as a labor union if the telecom companies decide to enter into negotiation? How low will you be ready to go?
Well, as long as they are ready to see, you know, the level of poverty or suffering by Nigerian workers and ditto Nigerian masses, because most of the time every worker takes care of, you know, almost 6 or 5 people who are not working. As long as they are ready to listen, as long as they adopt this issue of stakeholders theory, which I said, that you need to consult in all their acts, whether in the electricity or telecom, you know, it is clear for them to consult the appropriate stakeholders, you know, before taking this decision. And it is by so doing that they will know where the shoe is pinching the stakeholders. And I think that we can't be doing abortion before pregnancy. Announce it and you wait for a reaction, you know, see whether you can reduce it or not. Ordinarily, the best way to go is to do proper consultation, and then we'll look at it. If it becomes necessary, at what percentage is it necessary? This idea of thinking for us without knowing what comes into our pocket is so difficult. We'll be open and discuss and lay all the issues on the table.
Well, we've seen several protests by the NLC in past times challenging some of these government policies, but some Nigerians have said some of these protests have not yielded much results, as government is yet to shift ground. We still see increase in petroleum products. We still see increase in electricity. What will you say can be done differently than protests that will yield, that will get government's attention? Because it seems like government is immune to labor's demands.
Well, I don't think those people are right by saying it has not attracted attention. Just like you are commenting now, there's hardly any Nigerian that doesn't know that we have protested and we have resisted all these issues. Now, if government decides not to listen, now does that not send you a signal? If you say Labour has protested on the issue of petroleum products, you know, increase in PMS, Labour has protested on electricity tariff, and we are doing it continuously, and you see it has not yielded any result because we have not been able to tie the hands of government. Is that the policy of protestation all over the world? If we have played our role by bringing it to the fore and to the listening ears of the government, if they decide not to hear, now do you now look for a total war to make them to hear? We have played our role, Nigerians have played their role. Unless you have another policy you now want us to adopt. But this is the road to us to show that this is biting us, this is wrong. And then if Nigerians are now saying that government has refused to listen, you now know where the fault lies.
Now, comrade, while you want to negotiate, would you also consider the fact that the operating environment is very tense? The cost of production has gone up. The telecom companies in about 12 years have not increased their tariff. So are we saying that they're not justified to demand that, look, we need to also be able to make more money so that we can operate?
Well, the telecom companies, more or less, just like the power sector, you know, they have this local content initiative, which has not been explored. Almost, you know, most of the things that they acquired, the machines they acquired in those days, you know, as of today, you know, are still functioning. Just like the power stations that were built 40 years ago and whatever. And then they seem to be justifying the increase based on the current exchange rates going up. And then they want the 5 naira they were talking of yesterday, that is the tariff yesterday. Today is not, today you know the value. It has just been depreciated. Now you keep on increasing your price when the value of that money is almost gone. Now the worker 70,000 minimum wage, if you take off the one, maybe 10,000 something for telecom, it then means you don't want them to survive. Why don't you think of increasing the allowances, telecom allowance, utility allowance, and all these ones in addition to whatever has been given to us? You don't shift the goalposts when the game have started. After negotiating minimum wage, the following day you now come with taxes and increases that makes a mess of all that has been gathered. I think we will be open for discussion if we discuss all these things and look at the reality.
Well, we look forward to that discussion and hope that Nigerian workers actually get, balance in all this situation. We must thank you very much for your time, comrade, with us on the show this morning.